guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited that it is officially 2016. I can't believe it though. Last year I did my favorite books of 2014, and this year I thought I would talk about my favorite books of 2015. These aren't necessarily books that came out this year, but books that I read this year that I absolutely loved. It's like the best of the best. I usually talk about a book in every favorites video, so this is basically wrapping it up, summing everything up, and saying these are my favorite books that I read. Second half of the year, I did not have great success with books. So a lot of these are from the first half of the year. You know, that's okay. Not every book can be amazing. That's the truth. I'm gonna talk about my absolute favorites first, and then gonna go down and then we'll talk about it. There's no specific order, but I do have a few that are definitely like the best of the best. First absolute favorite book that I read in 2015 was All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. Doerr? This was one of those books that got me crying on the bus. I know, embarrassing. When I go to school, I would be reading it and the waterworks would be happening, and I was that girl on the bus being like, one of the best written books, one of the most captivating stories, one of the most tragic stories, but I loved it because it was real. It takes place in World War II. And it was about two young people. One of them is a boy enrolled in the German military. Sort of starts with his journey in an orphanage and then kind of like how he gets into the military, and then a French girl who's blind. So how their stories sort of are totally different, and then kind of how they come to interconnect. And it's really, really interesting, amazing read. Definitely my #1 favorite, most recommended book. Go actually and buy it, because you're going to be lending it to all your friends because you love it so much. That's why I don't have it here, because we've been lending it out to literally everyone. So the second favorite, most favorite book ever that I actually don't own. I borrowed it from the library and then I bought it for my sister. It is the Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. Cattoness. I have a soft spot for very, very large books because I read Harry Potter growing up, and then I read Lord of the Rings, and then I read Game of Thrones. I just like thick books. I like to have all the detail. I like to be able to really get to know the characters because it feels more like a relationship is formed. This was another one of those huge books, and it basically revolved around a murder and some sort of crimes that have been committed and tons of different stories. If you've watched some of my book videos in the past, you know that I really like books that take multiple perspectives. Another book that I would say go ahead and buy, but I do think, like, I know some people who've read it and didn't like that book at all. It really got me. Like, I loved it. Like, I was hooked in, man. Like, hooked in for life. And that's like a moment where you're reading and you're like, thank God this book is so long, because I seriously love it. So now the next books I'm going to talk about are mostly just in random order. Those two are definitely my favorites, but I'm just going to talk now about some other books that I've really, really loved this past year. My favorite new series that I started reading in 2015 is this one right here. The Red Rising series. It's a trilogy. The third book isn't out yet. The third book is going to be called Morning Star. And I think it comes out in February, which I'm like way too excited about. I feel a little bit like nerdy about it, but like I'm so excited. Like so excited. Like I think that day is actually marked in my calendar. Anyway, so yes, I originally started reading Red Rising, which was the first book. I did not like it at all. I thought it was stupid. Then I picked it up again and I absolutely fell in love and I could not get enough. I ran to the bookstore to pick up Golden Sun, the second book. Once again, like sped through it like nobody's business, and now I just cannot wait for Morning Star. Very fantasy, very much Hunger Games, but more mature. I think that there's a movie coming out about this, so if you don't like reading, which why are you watching this video if you don't like reading? I don't really understand, but if you don't like reading, there is a movie coming out, and if you don't like fantasy, I wouldn't recommend this, but if you liked Hunger Games or Harry Potter or anything like that, you will like these. The first 100 pages in Red Rising is really boring, but once you get past it, it's good. It's really good. Next, I wasn't going to mention this, but I thought I would because I did really enjoy it in the end. The Rosie Effect. This is by Graeme, Simsion. The first one is called The Rosie Project, which if you haven't read that, that is a really, really good book, and I do recommend that. And I think I talked about that in my 2014 favorite books. The thing that I've come to realize about myself this year in regards to reading and books is that I only read when I'm in the mood to read. Like, I cannot read like a fantasy book if I'm not in the mood to read a fantasy book. This book I had to be in the mood to read, but it's very interesting and very funny. So if you want something light and easy to get through, this is I think this is like a good vacation book. Like, it's a good book to take on vacation because it doesn't stress you out. It doesn't make you worried or like second guess your decisions in life. It just is good. is good. Another one that I don't have with me is The Revised Fundamentals of Caregiving by Johnathon Evison. Everyone's last names are very hard to pronounce. This one is another good one, and it's also becoming a movie. I know that they're filming it. I think it has like Ben Affleck, and I think Selena Gomez is in it. Not sure. Another really interesting story about a man who's gone through some really serious trauma. Something really horrible's happened. He's divorced, and throughout the book you don't really know why, but you have snippets where they go back to the thing that happened, and you realize why his whole life has kind of fallen apart. It's a beautiful story of just recovery and finding yourself after grief. This book here, Americanah, this is such a good book. I absolutely am fascinated by like immigrant stories, I guess. Like I find it very fascinating about different people's perspectives moving from elsewhere into North America, whether that be like Canada or the United States. I find it very interesting. So this is a woman from, I believe she's from Nigeria, and she moves to America. This is one of those books that you read and you're like, wow, this is a good writer. Like the story's great, but this is just a really, really, really good writer. So I really, really enjoyed this. It is actually a love story. I will say that. It is a love story. So there is some like romantic, oh, it's so cute and happy things that you're like, oh, I love love. The next one is Wild by Cheryl Strayed. This is a movie now as well with Reese Witherspoon. I have not seen the movie, or have I? Cheryl Strayed, who's the author, is actually, it's her story. It's her life, what she's gone through. And her story is so real. I find sometimes when people go through like shitty things, and I don't know if this is like what you guys have noticed or if you ever even realized this, but I feel like sometimes people glamorize their struggles to make it seem like it wasn't as horrible as it actually was. Whether that's a coping mechanism, I'm not really sure. What I really appreciated about the story was she was so raw about it. Like, it sucked. And reading it, I was like, that sounds horrible. Like, I would not want that life. I would not want to go through those things. Like, I'm not doing heroin because that's scary. Like, that's not the only reason I don't do heroin, but... And just really inspiring. It's sort of just one of those stories where you feel like someone's grieving and you're just watching them recover and do what they can to get back to a place where they're happy and healthy again. It was sort of one of those books that was like happily ever after, and I was like, I'm okay with it because it's real. And just a really, really lovely book. Again, if you don't like to read, you could watch the movie, but again, I don't know why you'd be watching this video. Unless you really like me. Then hello, welcome to my channel. The next one I have to talk about is The Cellist of Sarajevo by Stephen Galloway. This was one of those books that I knew was going to be heavy, and I knew it was going to be sad, and I knew it was going to make me cry, but I thought, you know, Emily, you gotta toughen up, little girl. It's time to face the facts of life. Because sometimes for me, I find really hard to read books that are sad because I feel like there's enough darkness around us in our everyday lives, which is very negative, but that's how I feel, okay? To then read a book that's really sad is just like over the top for me sometimes, especially when I'm in school or like studying for exam. The nice thing about the story, again, was that there was multiple perspectives, and so you kind of got a family man, a woman who's very independent, basically completely on her own, part of the military, the underground military, and then you had a few other characters, and just their everyday lives, and just the things they had to do, and the dangers they had to take on just to go get water or walk down the street. It was a very interesting book, and it was very real again. I really like books that don't glamorize the atrocities of life. I really like that it's so real. Definitely one I would recommend again to buy because you're going to be lending it out to people because it is such a beautiful story. My last book that I wanted to recommend is actually one that I got for Christmas last year. This is The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. This was a really cute story. Again, one I would recommend taking on vacation because it's nice to, I'm just assuming you're all going on like 5 vacations this year. I'm like, you're going on vacation, right? Take this book. I'm not going on vacation anywhere. Let's just be real here. No, I have no money. Basically, this book is about I guess he's like 80 years old. He just one day decides to leave his home. And that's basically the story. He decides to just get up and leave. And he walks and he walks and he walks and he walks. And at first you're kind of like, what the crap is this? Like, why is this old man walking? Like, someone should be watching him so he doesn't have a heart attack and die. That's honestly what I thought in the beginning. But then you realize that he's actually grieving. He's grieving something. You don't really know what he's grieving. And then you kind of figure it out. He's grieving in a very different, unique way. Definitely well written, a little bit boring in the beginning, but I would definitely recommend getting through it because the ending is beautiful. He's very stubborn, and I like that because I'm also very stubborn, so another very good book I highly recommend as well. And this was actually longlisted for the Man Booker Prize, so it's a good book. So I have two books that I actually haven't finished yet, but I want to give an honorable mention to. The first one I'm obsessed with. This is Mindy Kaling's book, Why Not Me? I am obsessed. I cannot stop. I think I've mentioned her before, but she's one of those people that I would like genuinely want to be friends with and hang out with and just like have her make me laugh. She's hilarious, her stories are amazing, and she again is so real and genuine. Like there's nothing to hide in here. I absolutely love it. I think my favorite thing actually is she kind of shows a few pictures of her like in magazines, like all dressed up, and then she's like, yeah, wonder what I look like without all this magic, and she shows a picture of Gollum. That's what my brother used to call me, Gollum, when I was little. Like I totally identify with this book. Honestly, if you're feeling sad, pick this up. I will pay you money if you don't laugh. But I actually won't because I don't have any money to give you. The other book I want to talk about is by Martin James, and this is A Brief History of 7 Killings. This is the winner of the Man Booker Prize this year, or last year, I guess, whatever year was now. It was 2015, I guess, because it's not this year. Okay. This is about Bob Marley, kind of. Not really. It's about Jamaica, the political unrest in Jamaica, and many different perspectives it takes. He, as a musician, has such an impact on his society around him. Like such a huge impact, not just like musical or cultural, like political, like huge. So definitely interesting. I have struggled to get through some of it. It's a bit dense. Obviously it's quite it's a fatty, but it's really good and I do recommend it for sure. If it won the Man Booker Prize, I mean, it must be okay, right? So those are all my books I want to talk about this year. 2015 is over. Those are some of my favorite books that I read in this past year. It was an okay reading year, but I think 2014 was better. If you haven't seen my 2014 favorite books, I will link it down below, but I seriously have some amazing books in that video. I think I have some good ones in this video too, but still, if you want to watch that, you're more than welcome to. And that's pretty much it. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you're having an amazing 2016 so far, and I will see you all soon.